Ava. I'm a Scorpio.
No. What's your last name?
Ava.
What's your other last name?
Ava Baroni.
Ava Baroni Combs? Yes, it's breaking news. Diddy adopted a white child. I want you to tell them the story about how I adopted you. Yes. And it's Ava Baroni Combs.
So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to fuck you.
It's craziness, man.
Terrence Howard just dropped a bomb. He allegedly lost some key evidence tied to tracking his adopted daughter, Ava. And now things are spiraling out of control. We all thought Tamara Tower had wrapped up her drama with Diddy after she said Diddy tried to make a move on her. But surprise, Terrence might have been keeping some major secrets from that podcast appearance. And guess what? The feds are on this like white on rice. They just updated Diddy's indictment, adding 2 brand new charges and even switching up some from the original list. Word on the street is that Ava's name has popped up in the mix. She's allegedly listed as one of the new victims. And if that's not wild enough, people are saying she's actually going to testify against Diddy in court. This case just went nuclear. And Terrence, he might be the one who finally brings Diddy crashing down. So let's break this down. On that podcast, Terrence spilled some major tea when we thought it couldn't get messier. What could possibly be more shocking than Diddy allegedly using young artists for shady purposes? Well, Terrence went ahead and claimed Diddy tried to make a move on him, tried to pull him into some intimate setup. That's wild. And it didn't stop there. Terrence said he wasn't the only black man Diddy allegedly pulled something sneaky on. According to him, there's a whole disturbing pattern where Diddy targets black men at these so-called freakoff parties, these so-called over-the-top parties. Terrence says they were straight-up traps, setups where Diddy allegedly worked to tear these men down and strip them of their dignity. He made it clear this wasn't just some random one-time thing. Without dropping names, Terrence hinted that there are other big names in the industry who've gone through the same twisted stuff, but they kept their mouths shut out of fear, shame, or maybe both. According to Terrence, Diddy allegedly targets black men when they're at their most vulnerable, turning it into a twisted game. And this ain't no wild guess. Terrence made it sound like a calculated routine, like Diddy knew exactly what he was doing. Now, here's where things get even messier. Word on the street is that all this might be tied to Diddy's adopted daughter, Ava Baroni, and the truth about what really happened to her. And let's just say, from what Terrence is starting to reveal, it's bad. Fans have been side-eyeing the whole Ava situation for years, wondering what actually went down. But now, with Terrence talking, people are connecting dots, and it's not looking good. There's serious buzz that Ava might have been one of Diddy's alleged victims.
But you still have beautiful parents that, if you're my child, also could. Please tell the story.
So, I was on the streets, and then Papa Combs decided that he would like to be a caring man. So then he saw me and decided to pick me up and said to come inside and play with his kids.
That's like borderline suspect. I don't want nobody. You want to get it. I adopted, just like Madonna adopted kids and everybody else adopted kids. Charlize Theron, everybody's ever adopted Sandra Bullock. I adopted you because I felt that you could, enjoy also having a black parent to take care of you and help you out. So, just clarify, because it's crazy out here online. So I played with the kids, and I got permission from your mother. Say all of that, because it's crazy out here.
Well, I met Jesse and Lila when I was 6 months old.
6 months.
And then basically sisters, all 4 of us.
6 months.
I always come over.
And the rumors about her involvement are starting to explode. So let's rewind to 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, when things first started getting suspicious. Back in 2020, right when the world was locked down, Diddy popped out with a surprise that had everyone doing a double take. He suddenly announced he had adopted a young white girl named Ava Baroni Combs. Almost overnight, just like that, she was introduced as part of the Combs family. Diddy even hopped on Instagram Live, showing her off with a big, proud smile like he was flexing for the cameras. But the whole thing felt so random, so out of the blue, that people either brushed it off or straight up forgot about it. One day she was there, the next, silence. Ava barely got mentioned after that. And honestly, most folks didn't think twice, not until Diddy's name started getting dragged into serious legal trouble. That's when people started connecting the dots and digging into his past moves, including this sudden adoption. At the time, it looked like a sweet, generous move, adopting a kid during a global crisis when so many children needed love and security. People praised him for stepping up. But now, with all this mess coming to light, that same Instagram Live clip is giving a lot of people chills. What once looked heartwarming is now raising major red flags, and the vibe around that video. It's changed completely. And guess what? That wasn't the only thing that felt off about the whole situation. Things got even sketchier when Diddy openly compared his adoption of Ava to Madonna's. And let's be real for a sec, that's a wild move. Madonna's adoptions have been surrounded by all kinds of controversy for years. Multiple sources say not all of her adoptions follow proper legal channels. And it gets worse. The Ethiopian World Federation once straight up accused her of human exploitation, claiming she tricked parents into giving up their kids by promising them schooling opportunities in the US, only to adopt them for good instead. So for Diddy to proudly say he modeled his adoption after that, that alone had people side-eyeing hard. With all the baggage tied to Madonna's adoption history, it made Diddy's decision look even more suspicious. Like, what was he really trying to do? And now, fans are digging deep into the video he posted and noticing a whole bunch of weird stuff. First off, folks are asking why Diddy's sons were right up front while his daughters were nowhere in sight. If Ava wanted to play with kids her age, why weren't the girls the ones included? Why just the sons? That setup didn't sit right with a lot of people. But the most disturbing part? Ava looked visibly uncomfortable. Her body language, her stiff posture, her expression, it all gave off this awkward, uneasy vibe. Viewers picked up on it instantly. Was it just a random, awkward moment? Or was something way deeper going on in that room? Now when you throw Diddy's sons into the mix, things get way creepier. Neither of them is exactly controversy-free. Justin was named in that messy lawsuit with Lil Rod. And Christian? He's dealing with legal heat of his own, so it's not hard to picture that the whole vibe in that house might have been tense or straight up uncomfortable. But the biggest red flag? Ava basically vanished right after that live stream. Other than a couple of quick appearances alongside Diddy's twin daughters, Jessie and Delilah, she completely dropped off the radar. No more cute family pics, no updates, no mentions, just gone. And considering she was calling him Papa Combs, you'd think she'd be more present, right? But instead, it was crickets, silent, like she never existed. Now with all these disturbing allegations piling up, trafficking claims, mistreatment of women, and worse, fans are starting to put two and two together. What really happened to Ava? Her sudden disappearance has turned this whole thing from a feel-good pandemic-era adoption into a full-blown real-life mystery. Something about it just doesn't add up. And here's where it takes an even darker turn. Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, stepped out the shadows and spilled everything. According to Gene, it wasn't just that Ava was mistreated. He said Diddy allegedly used her. Claimed the entire adoption was a calculated move, a straight-up publicity stunt designed to earn public sympathy and clean up his image during the pandemic. Gene made it sound like Ava wasn't brought into the Combs house for love, but for leverage. According to Gene Deal, once Diddy got the spotlight and sympathy he wanted, he allegedly tossed Ava aside, like she was never even part of the family. Gene didn't sugarcoat it either. He claimed Diddy found a young homeless girl, brought her into his world under the illusion of adoption, then paraded her around like family, just for the cameras. But behind closed doors, Gene says it was all for show, nothing but smoke and mirrors. And while Gene didn't directly accuse Diddy of physically harming Ava, he definitely turned up the heat. Hard. He strongly hinted that something dark may have gone down, and even claimed that people inside the industry already know what kind of man Diddy really is. Let's just say Gene wasn't holding back, and the tea he served, scorching. But what makes it worse is he might not be wrong. If you look at the history of the industry, there's a pattern of turning a blind eye to powerful men doing shady things. Think about it. R. Kelly, Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby. These men were protected for years while victims were silenced or ignored. Same thing might have been happening here. Even in Cassie's lawsuit, she said Diddy was constantly surrounded by people who looked the other way, or worse, helped cover up his behavior. Enablers everywhere.
And if you're going to speak against me, then use the same courage that it took for me to say those truths. Man to man, eye to eye, integrity and in truth. I've spent a lifetime earning the right to speak with the conviction about these truths that I speak. So if you want to tear that down, have the decency to come and say it directly to my face. And say it like a man. The conclusions. But we're going to do this respectfully, otherwise we're ending a duel. And I mean a duel, real life duel, where only one person wants to be.
And now, fans are starting to wonder just how deep that cover-up really goes, and how many people stayed quiet while Ava disappeared from the spotlight. So when Gene started dropping those bombshells, it really made people stop and ask, what's really been going on behind the scenes all these years? And here's where it gets downright disturbing. Gene hinted that Diddy might have had some seriously questionable videos involving Ava, videos that weren't just inappropriate, but possibly criminal. He even went as far as saying that federal investigators were allegedly hunting for those tapes because they believe they do exist. And guess who else might have known what was going down this whole time? 50 Cent. Yep, allegedly, 50's been sitting on some explosive insider info about Diddy and all his mess, way before any receipts hit the timeline. For years, 50's been throwing hints, warning folks, calling Diddy out, but nobody took him seriously. People thought he was just being petty, blaming it on old beef or bitterness that Diddy didn't sign him back when he was still trying to break through the industry. And let's be real, there might be a little truth to that part too. We all know 50 Cent is the undisputed king of grudges. Dude is petty like crazy, but that doesn't mean he was wrong. So it's no surprise that 50 Cent's feud with Diddy never cooled off, especially since he's also been beefing for years with Diddy's right-hand man, DJ Z. But here's where things start to get real shady. 50 has been hinting that there are even darker secrets about Diddy. Stuff so serious that the feds are allegedly keeping some of it under wraps. At one point, 50 says something that really had people shook. This is why they put that tape out. They know they can't charge him with what we saw, but they know we can't unsee what we saw.
And you know what's so crazy is, bruh, that all these stories has been around the industry for a long time. All these industry people know that Diddy been acting like this and doing this and try to engage. Yo, it's a lot of stories that goes around in this industry about not just him, other people. Jimmy Iovine. Ain't nobody talking about Jimmy Iovine. He got charges and everything on him, but he got those publicists that's keeping it out off of CNN, is keeping it off the major news reports. Nobody's talking about that. This is something that goes on, man, that they're gonna push up under the rug, and a few years later, Bad Boy 5, 6, 7, 8 will be out.
That right there, that's a serious statement. According to an insider, 50 allegedly got his hands on real evidence, and it supposedly connects Diddy to Ava in a way that could shake everything. And now, word is he's about to drop it all in his upcoming documentary. For context, Last year, 50 Cent announced he was working on a doc about Diddy called Diddy Do It, coming soon, and he wasn't playing around. He posted GLG, Green Light Gang, another one, and then took a direct shot saying, "I thought Diddy was a billionaire music mogul. If he's smart, he'll file for bankruptcy. Anyone with real money knows why I'm saying this. I'm the best producer for the job. Here come the receipts." That was all said last year. But with all the noise around Diddy's other scandals, people kind of forgot about Ava. That is, until Terrence Howard started speaking up and hinting that he knew something deep about her situation. And just like that, boom, the feds updated their indictment against Diddy, slapping on 2 brand new charges tied to anonymous victims. And the language in that new indictment, it was intense. It said, "At all times relevant to this indictment, Sean Combs, the defendant, engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse toward women and other individuals."
You understand? It's gonna come to the forefront. Now, what they're looking for, because it was going on the premises of, they're looking for pictures of girls that may appear to be underage in a context, like they in a act. That's what they're looking for. So now they're gonna go through all those devices. If somebody got any kind of weird that they got little kids or little girls or something like that in any kind of pictures or any kind of photos that they took out of there.
This was at times verbal, emotional, and physical as part of his pattern of abuse. That's not just legal jargon. That's a major accusation. And people are starting to connect it all back to Ava. The latest indictment laid it all out, and it's dark. According to prosecutors, Diddy allegedly manipulated women into participating in choreographed sexual acts, sometimes with him alone and sometimes with him and male commercial workers. These weren't casual encounters. They were planned, orchestrated, and produced. The feds say Diddy and his team would fly these women and workers out to wherever he was, making sure everything was set up in advance. And how did he keep these women compliant? By controlling their careers, dangling money in front of them, promising support, then threatening to pull it all away if they didn't play along. They say he used intimidation, fear, and his power to make sure everyone did what he wanted. But it doesn't stop there. The indictment also says Diddy and his crew used his business empire, the name, the fame, the clout, to pull women into his circle.
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
What was the consequences when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at me. Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. And he's sitting there, just looking at me, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to fuck you. That's what my assistant said. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more communication. Now you know to be hands off with somebody. A number of producers come in to make the approach, and you threaten to punch them in the mouth, or threaten to knock their head off for talking to you or looking at you like you're a woman. When you approach a real man about his masculinity, you're gonna get a real reaction back.
He allegedly lured them in by pretending it was about romance or opportunity. But once they were in, he used threats, force, and coercion to trap them into commercial acts. And we're not talking business deals. The court doc specifically mentioned 3 anonymous women, identified only as female 1, 2, and 3, who were allegedly given cash, career hookups, and even housing in exchange for their involvement. But the most twisted part? Some of these acts allegedly involved male commercial workers, and Diddy himself reportedly called them freakoffs, elaborate, wild events that he didn't just attend. He produced, directed, and sometimes recorded electronically. And to make it all happen, Diddy. with help from his team, the so-called Combs Enterprise, allegedly arranged for people to be flown across state lines and even internationally to pull off these freak-offs. Now that the details are coming out, it's clear this wasn't just about parties. It was a full-blown operation. Diddy's not just facing accusations about wild parties. Now, he's allegedly being called out for forcing women to sleep with other men at those same parties, all for money. But before we even get into what the federal investigators uncovered, let's make one thing crystal clear. The victim involved in this situation did not consent. According to the feds, Diddy allegedly coerced her into doing these acts and then forced her to accept payment afterwards. Why? So he could flip the script later and say she agreed to it. It was just business. That twisted move was meant to create plausible deniability, making it look like she was a willing participant who got paid for her services. But behind the scenes, it was all calculated. A move designed to blur the line between consent and coercion. And sadly, with how quick people online are to shame these women, calling them gold diggers or clout chasers, this disgusting strategy might actually work in the court of public opinion. It paints the victim as someone who went along with it, when in reality, she may have been manipulated, pressured, and trapped into something she never agreed to from the start. Now let's get into the legal part. The indictment says that from at least 2009 through 2018, across New York and beyond, Sean Combs knowingly recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, and solicited people to engage in criminal sexual acts. And not just that, he allegedly caused those acts to happen, either directly or by helping others make it happen. Specifically, they say he recruited and maintained one of the victims, known as Victim 1, and pushed her into commercial sex acts, knowing full well that it was all done through force, fraud, or coercion. And this didn't stop years ago. The documents go on to say this behavior allegedly continued from 2021 all the way through 2024. According to the indictment, Sean Combs knowingly recruited, enticed, and solicited individuals, fully aware that force, threats, fraud, or coercion would be used to make them engage in commercial acts. And it didn't stop there. The feds say he also aided, abetted, and willfully caused these acts to happen. One case mentions how he allegedly recruited, transported, and maintained a second victim, now with the same disturbing tactics. Just like with Victim 1, the feds say Victim 2 was pushed into commercial sex acts under pressure, with Diddy allegedly knowing the entire time that it was all rooted in force, manipulation, and fear. Now here's where it circles back to Ava. The streets are buzzing that she could be one of the newly added anonymous victims in this indictment. With all eyes back on her and all the past questions about her sudden disappearance, it wouldn't be shocking if the feds decided to dig deeper and include her in this massive case. This whole situation is beyond messy, but here's the thing. We're not gonna have to wait forever. The trial might have been delayed, but it's coming up fast, and something tells me what we've seen so far, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Now I need to hear from you. What do you think is really going on behind the scenes? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to see thousands of them. Don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single update. This story's not over. And trust me, you're going to want to be here for the next one. Catch you on the next video.